Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today my guest, Jade Mackie, who is a qualified naturopath. We're talking all about detoxification and parasite cleansing because Jade runs the wellness program, which takes clients through a 3-stage process to detox, cleanse and heal the gut. So that's what we're going to be talking more about today. Jade has been studying health and wellness for over 10 years now and is passionate about helping others improve and restore their health. So welcome Jade to the Hormones in Harmony podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm excited. It's one of my favourite subjects. I can talk about it all day, every day. So I thought you'd be the perfect person to have on.
Yeah, well, I'd love to chat about that. I love it too, so that's great.
Great. So what is it that brought you to the health and wellness world in the first place? Was this just something that you've always been interested in, or was it due to a personal health struggle?
Yeah, it's a bit of both. So my mum has always been into it. My nan that grew her own vegetables, was very into like natural way of living. So I was kind of brought up on it. But as you do that when you're a teenager, you start drinking alcohol, going out partying. So yeah, I was enjoying that lifestyle and my skin just started getting really bad. So it started off with just a few spots and I thought, oh, it's just hormones. Then it basically turned into cystic acne where I just ignored it for so long. So it's probably over the course of about 2 years, it had gone from just a few spots and some blemishes to suddenly I've got a full-blown problem here with cysts on my face that just would not go. I was putting on, you go to the boots and you try and get all these topical things that say they'll get rid of spots, and nothing was working. I was going to beauticians and having these face mask treatments. And so my mum took me to the doctors because normally she'd try natural stuff. But this had got to a point where I needed some intervention. And the doctor said, oh, it's probably hormones, go on the contraceptive pill. So I was desperate. So I went on the pill for a month and nothing happened. And I think part of me didn't want to go on the pill because I thought, this isn't a real fix. This isn't getting to the root cause. This is just going to be masking it for long term. So after a month, I thought, no, do you know what? It's not even helped anyway. I don't really want to go down this route. What else can you do? So then he said, try some antibiotics. And hopefully that'll wipe out anything in the gut that's contributing towards it. I ended up doing 2 rounds of antibiotics and nothing helped. So then he said, I'll refer you to a dermatologist. I'm thinking, right, he's a skin specialist, so he's going to have the answers. And I remember my mum saying to him, so what's caused this acne? And he said, some people get it and some people don't. Yeah. And I couldn't believe it. I thought, this is someone who is a trained specialist in the area and they can't give me the answers. So if he can't give me the answers, how can he give me the right treatment? Things just weren't adding up in my head. And he wanted to put me on Roaccutane. And my mum said, you're not going on that. Just because it's so devastating to the body. And again, it wasn't going to be getting to the actual cause, like what's happened, what's gone wrong, and no one could give us that answer. So I sort of walked away from that and realised really that it was going to be on us to find the answers ourselves. So someone that I was working with at the time, they had skin issues and they'd gone to a dermatologist that was more in the topical treatments. So we did lasers, microdermabrasion, all this sort of thing. So I went to him and he basically said, we're going to have to cut open these cysts. Yeah. What? Yeah, to cut them open. Because they've been there for months and they weren't going. And he said, it should become chronic. They're just not going to go. And the longer they're there, the deeper the scar's going to be. He said, so it's my advice just to cut them open, get it out, and then deal with the scars after. So at that point, I was like, okay, if that's what we've got to do. So yeah, I had all these cysts cut and removed. And then basically, I think it was about 3 years of every other month going for laser treatments, microdermabrasion, chemical peels, and then had to work on the scar treatment after that, which was with a derma roller with needles. And while that was happening, I was also doing a lot of research myself, trying to think what actually had happened and what had gone wrong. And I think I was researching and just trying various things for about 5 or 6 years. And I also hired various people in the natural world and was introduced to parasites. And they said it was a fungal and parasitic overgrowth. I'm thinking, I haven't been to any third world countries. I've got parasites. What are you talking about? But yeah, fast forward, and it was absolutely spot on, because all the things that I did and all the things that I learned through him, through various other practitioners, all my own research, doing my naturopathic qualification, that was the answer. And then I realised the importance of the gut, the importance of detox, that we all have pretty much parasites. And now I just want to help everyone else learn that, because if they can avoid a situation that I got into just because it's not mainstream information, then that's obviously what I want to now do. So that's kind of, yeah, how I got to.
Wow. Yeah, our stories are very similar. The reason I got into nutrition was my skin as well. And I think when you're that age, like I think it was like 17, 18, I'd gone through puberty, like 0 spots. My skin was the clearest of all of my friends. And then it hit me, like, I think I was catching up on all of the breakouts that I'd not had for all of those years. But yeah, nothing motivates you more than having acne. You want to do something about it. I went for the pill, made it worse.
Yeah.
So it is, you get very desperate. But I'm interested, where did you end up studying nutrition?
The School of Modern Naturopathy.
Okay, I've not heard of that. Is that a UK, like in person or an online?
No, it's online and it's international. So it's run by Linda Lazarides, and she was like a nutritionist for the stars. So she's quite well known. Yeah. She's come up with a diet called the Waterfall Diet. So she's got a diet out there in a book, which is about for people that have got like edema and water retention and problems like this. That's what her diet's about. So yeah, she's quite well known. So
yeah, I'll have to look into that. I love when people give me new recommendations to look into. And when you first heard about parasites until your skin was clear, like how long are we talking? Months, weeks, years?
Yeah, it was a long time. Initially, I worked with that practitioner for about 3 months, and I was seeing improvements, but not loads. And I just think generally skin does take longer than some other issues, unfortunately. When I get clients come to me with skin issues, I do try and say to them, you're probably going to have everything else clear up before the skin. It's just the way it goes. It just takes longer. So I think it was probably, all in all, until now, I don't really get anything at all. It's about 2 years. Okay. 2 year journey.
That's not too long in like the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it's very intense though, of trying not to slip up at all. And it can be quite a restrictive diet initially, all the protocols that you have to put in. So 2 years can feel like a while, but in the grand scheme of life, when you're suffering and it is on your face, there's a lot of invisible illnesses, but with acne, everyone can see how you look, and it really, affects your confidence. It affects everything that you do in your life. I didn't date for 3 years because I was thinking, I look horrible, so I'm not going to go out on dates. I didn't like my job. I didn't want to leave my job and have to go and have interviews because I didn't have the confidence. So it just affects your whole life when you have acne. So yeah, like you say, you get quite desperate. And
what career were you in previously?
Insurance.
Okay, very different.
I know. I don't think I was ever really probably meant to do that. You fall into it. Whereas this is more of like,
you've been put on your path now.
Yeah.
The struggles that you went with, it's all for a reason. It's hard to know that in the moment, isn't it? But when you look back, you're like, oh, it makes total sense, like where I am today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't regret anything, because I don't think I would have been doing this job if it wasn't for that. So it happened for a reason. I 100% believe that.
Did you have any other symptoms? So you said that you were drinking and partying and not taking care of yourself. Was it just the acne that you were aware of, or were there other imbalances going on?
At the time, it just seemed more like the acne because that was in front of my face and what I was so worried about. But then when I look back, I used to get UTIs nearly every month. I didn't really think that was a problem. I just thought, everyone gets UTIs. When I was younger, I used to have ear infections all the time. Every time I went on holiday and would go in a swimming pool, 100% would get an ear infection. I just had I look back in photos and I was really puffy. There's that like toxic, puffy look. It's not, I was a bit overweight, but not massively, but it was just this puffiness. I remember my granddad saying to me, oh my God, what's happened to your ankles? They're all swollen. But it's just where I was holding water. I had loads of water retention as well in my feet, and they were swollen.
That made you feel great.
I know. I hadn't even realised. I was just completely oblivious to what was going on in my body. And that's why, to me, it was such a shock. I'm thinking, where did these spots come from? And only now I look back and know why I know, that all the pieces were there, all the warnings were there, and I was just completely ignoring them and not realising their warnings at all.
So with your first protocol, and as soon as parasites were mentioned and you were given this plan, how did that kind of look, like with diet and supplements? And is that the same as what you do now with clients? Did that really help you, and therefore you use the same thing, or have you adapted and changed that?
Yeah, so the actual basis of what we're trying to achieve is similar because of how much it helped me. But then what I've learned outside of that and the course that I've done, I've then also incorporated more things, because that was very specific to the parasites. Whereas what I do, I'm trying to change people's whole lifestyle, because, you know, obviously you can follow these dietary protocols, but as soon as you go back to normal living, you're going to slowly back on a path to illness again. So it's trying to, you know, having the education piece. I didn't really have the education. It was follow this plan. I try and do the education at the same time. Like, this is why we're doing this. This is why it's important. You may not have to be strict, but do it like this, you know, X, Y, Z. And incorporating the entire lifestyle side. So it's one thing to get the toxins out, but we also want to make sure we're not keep bringing the toxins in. So yeah, then we're looking at ways how they can clean up their external environments. So yeah, basically it's similar premise as such, what we're trying to achieve, but I've just tried to make it a complete holistic approach so that it's all areas of life. And I try to say this is going to change your entire lifestyle. It's not about just following this diet, because there isn't really a magic pill I can give you as such. I don't believe in just giving this and that's going to be it. You need to understand why this has happened to you. This is not by chance. It's because of the way we've been living and our environments. You know, some things are out of our control, but once we bring them to the forefront and understand, then we can just make little changes in our life to protect ourselves, basically.
So why is it, if these things are so prevalent, these parasites, these infections, these toxins, why is it that one person is seemingly fine, like they don't have skin issues, blood work looks good, versus someone else like you and me who gets a face full of acne?
So I think there's a few reasons. One can be your health bank. So, for example, what your ancestors, like say our nan and granddad, if they lived a really good life, they're going to have a really, really good gut health, really good microbiome, and that's what's passed on then to my mum, and then that's going to be passed on to me. Depending how my mum has lived, that will be, you know, she'll be working on the microbiome or she'll be reducing it further. So by the time it gets to me, I could be quite depleted, and I have quite a low immune system, quite poor gut health. So then I could be getting ill at age 8, and someone else could be getting ill at age 50, because we've started out with different health banks. So that's one thing. The other thing is genetics. So we are going to have genetic predispositions. So in my family, there has been acne. So if I then become unwell because I'm toxic, because I've got the parasites, etc., I am more genetically likely then to have them genes turned on that will give me acne, whereas someone else may have a genetic predisposition to Crohn's disease, for example. So, you know, when people, I used to always think this myself, my friend would be eating pizza, absolutely fine, but was she fine? You know, she could have
Seemingly fine.
Exactly. And if I had that pizza, my whole face would be covered in spots, and I would think, this is so unfair. I am healthier, or I think I'm healthier, and that person's fine and I'm not.
It would give you a pizza face of acne.
I get a pizza face. Exactly. Yeah. So I just didn't realise that, obviously, yeah, there are these different things. And then the other one, it can depend on what sort of pathogen you end up taking in. Because, you know, like bacteria is on every surface, there are pathogens everywhere, and you may end up getting a pathogen that has links to certain symptoms, and someone else picks up the parasite that gives them another set of symptoms. So, I mean, I'm sure there are more causes than that, but these are just the main ones that I try to give examples of, because I think that's really, that's just really key, because you do always feel like, why me? Why has this happened to me and not someone else, when you think you've had the same lifestyle and diet, you party together, you eat the same stuff, and you're suffering and they're not. But yeah, I mean, there's lots to it.
Yeah, and some people are just so disconnected from their body that they actually don't know that they're symptomatic until they get like a real illness diagnosis, because they think, oh, my mum had IBS and period pain, so that's just normal, that's just how it is. They don't actually know what real health looks and feels like.
So true. Yeah, and no one really talks about it, do they?
No.
You only talk about it when you're within this like holistic health like bubble on Instagram. I follow loads of accounts that talk about similar things to me, so I'm surrounded by it now, and I'm thinking that for me this is my normal life, and I forget almost like my past life that I wouldn't have had access to any of this information. I wouldn't have known where to find it. You look on Google, you're not really going to get anything in terms of natural healing and holistic health.
Especially for the past couple of years when they've blocked everything, they've filtered all the natural health websites, and when you search holistic remedies for migraines now, it's like WebMD and these doctors' websites, drug recommendations. So that is not a great thing. And it's good to see like UK, that's why I reached out to you as well, like UK practitioners who are into some of this thing, because it's really big. Well, from the people I follow, like a lot of people in America and these naturopathic doctors. So when I found you, I was like, oh, this is cool. I want to reach out to Jade.
No, to be honest, I don't think I've really come across anyone else in the UK either. And I was thinking maybe because in America they pay for their healthcare, they are more open to paying for natural treatments as well. And maybe they're more proactive in looking after their health because it would be costly. Yeah. The way we've got the NHS, people just think, oh yeah, I'll just head to the doctor if need be.
Exactly. Like, there's no point paying money if my doctor's advice is free, whereas in the US it might cost the same amount to go to a conventional versus naturopathic doctor. So you might as well give that one a try. Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
And when you were first given either the diagnosis or the reasoning behind your acne, how was that described to you? So how were these parasites and bacteria affecting your skin? Because if you weren't dealing with digestive symptoms, that's like the usual thing. If you were having chronic diarrhea every day, then it would probably be easier to kind of understand that. But how did they explain the mechanism between skin and these infections? Or how do you tell your clients now?
Yeah, so it didn't really explain at the time, which is probably why I was a bit confused, thinking, no, the problem's here? Is that what you're talking about? But I think when an infection is acute, it's obviously then a lot easier to realise something's gone wrong. When something becomes chronic and you're so used to living like that, it's then very difficult to identify why something's gone wrong and where it's gone wrong. But from what I've been learning, so obviously the gut is massively important. I suspect I had leaky gut syndrome. I had issues where I had gut permeability, things leaking through into the bloodstream, had inflammation going on, which then was making it difficult to make any progress and heal because I'm so inflamed and toxic. And ultimately, it came down to my liver. I had to do a lot of liver work. And when the liver is overburdened, because we've got the 5 eliminatory organs, so the colon, kidneys, liver, skin, and lungs, these are what help us filter out our toxins. And when one of these becomes overburdened, they then use the other eliminatory organs to assist them in detoxing. So when the liver is stressed and crying out, it will then put these out into the blood, and this pushes it out through the skin. So toxins in the blood are basically coming out through the skin. Usually that will then suggest, go one back, liver. And it's just because I was toxic. I had way too many toxins. And looking back now, I did have gut issues. I thought I was going to the toilet enough, but now I go like twice a day now. I realise I wasn't going enough, but again, I thought that was normal. So clearly my colon was toxic. The kidneys probably were as well, and then the liver, and then that's gone on to the skin. So it's all a bit of a cycle. Once one goes, it's like a domino effect, and then the next one, and then suddenly you're just in a chronic state of toxicity. And once you're toxic, you've got a high amount of toxins. Once you've got poor gut health, that is the perfect environment for parasites and harmful organisms to thrive. Mm-hmm. It's all about the terrain. Obviously, that has created a terrible terrain. Great for parasites, terrible for you. And that's it then, you're caught. You're caught then, because you've got the bad terrain, you've got all 3 things going on. And that is why in the wellness program, I do address all 3 of those, because if you try and do a detox but you haven't healed your gut and you haven't got rid of parasites, that environment isn't really going to change. And then if you heal your gut but you've still got parasites in there and you're still toxic, your gut's going to become leaky again. So it's all about having to address all 3 of those to really make that progress. And that's normally a big piece, I think, that's missing in the puzzle.
Yeah, and I made the mistake of going like straight into the gut healing. I was reading about gut health and I was like, oh, I just need to take bone broth and L-glutamine and colostrum. And I was just wasting money basically. And my symptoms were actually getting worse because I didn't know that I was so sensitive. I had histamine and mast cell reactions. All of this bone broth and fermented foods I was doing was just making my skin, my anxiety, I had a really itchy skin. It was making everything 10 times worse. I didn't know at the time that I had parasites, mold illness, SIBO, bacterial imbalances, like the whole
you had the whole lot.
Yeah, and they're like frenemies, aren't they? Once you've got one, as you said, it's just a vicious cycle, and they just wreck the terrain and take over your body basically. So with your 3-stage, with what?
That's so funny because I literally did this, because this is the thing, you find things online, don't you? And then you think, yeah, okay, I'll give that a go. Yeah, it's just, I think everyone must.
So I found the answer, but then it's not related to you personally. So you read like someone's blog and they're like, I tried this and I healed. So you just, desperate times. I know, but it is a learning curve, totally.
It is.
So with your 3-step process, starting with detox, what exactly does that look like? I know it's probably individual to everyone, but in terms of like nutrition, what's your philosophy when it comes to diet, and what does this detox stage, what is it comprised of? So
for the detox, 2 areas. We'll firstly be looking at trying to reduce the amount of toxins coming in. So some foods are toxic to the body, like refined sugar. Not a fan of coffee. A lot of people can't actually handle gluten very well, so that can create a very bad reaction, and people haven't realised that is a food issue for them. Cow dairy commonly. So there's certain foods that we'll remove so that we can stop reactions, and then there are certain foods that we'll then put in that will then support the body to naturally detoxify. So some of these are often herbs. So like, for example, any time we do any detoxing, we'll always look to support the liver, just because the liver is the key detoxification organ. I really like milk thistle. So I'll often recommend milk thistle, or there's turmeric, which is great because that will help the liver and also reduce inflammation. Burdock root is great for the blood, clean up the blood as well as the liver. So yeah, like you say, depending on the client, there's different things that we can do. So it's all about the two-way approach of helping the body be supported in reducing toxins, but also stopping certain foods that are going to be creating an inflammatory response and contributing to the toxicity in the body. And then what we do as well is follow protocols specific to each alimentary organ. So there's different ways you can cleanse your colon, for example. One of them I recommend on my Instagram is to do a sea salt flush. So you just put sea salt in water, and it just very quick one, and it flushes you through. And all there's we can go through it deeper, again, depending on what's required. Kidney cleanse, liver cleanse, etc. As well as looking at more, more like external stuff is what I call it, but like doing lymphatic drainage massage, recommending them having that, dry body brushing, coffee enemas, these things that they can put into their lifestyle that, because a colon cleanse is not something you would do every month. It's something that you're doing on your healing journey. But dry body brushing when you're having your shower is something that you could be doing all the time, that I say do that as part of your lifestyle. So it's part of, like I was saying before, trying to make it so that these, my clients can go on and embed these things into their lifestyle long term, as well as doing the short term stuff to help them get back to a position where their bodies can just be naturally detoxing like we can do anyway. Yeah, would you rather someone do like 2 to 3 full detoxes, like all the stuff, like 2 to 3 times a year, or not do those kind of more complex interventions, but do little bits every single day? Which do you think would be the most effective? If you're just looking to maintain your health, like if you consider yourself generally healthy, then I personally would recommend once biannually to do like the full works, and then just doing the maintenance stuff like the dry body brushing and things like that. The more chronically ill you are, the more you're going to need the full works And again, I would just stay on that journey of doing these things until you're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And then it then gets to, okay, depending on how you've been living. So say like for 6 months, you've not been great, then you might want to do it once a year, that full works. So it all just depends on your lifestyle, how you're living, how ill you are, what you're trying to achieve. But yeah, generally is what I would say.
Yeah, and I've done a lot of things like do the coffee enemas regularly because I'm still kind of in the healing phase at the moment. But I've never done gallbladder flushes. Have you ever done them? Do you recommend them?
Yeah, I recommend them. The only caveat is just know when to go into it cold. I get people message me and say, can you tell me how to do a gallbladder flush? And I'm like, that would be really dangerous for me to tell you how to do that and just to go in cold, because you could pass a gallstone that is too big to come out. Well, you'd have to go to hospital and have that removed. So it's really not advisable. But providing you're doing the work to get to that position, you know, you're following a diet where you are breaking those down, you're making sure your colon is clear, you're making sure your kidneys have been detoxed. It always goes colon, kidney, and then liver. So as long as you're doing all the sufficient prep, I think they're amazing. I have taken clients through them, and the number one thing they report is more energy. The amount of energy, they cannot believe it, from just dumping loads of stones, you know, full of like toxins, basically. It just, if you can imagine, they can't be like harbouring that and carrying that around for years to finally be released of that. It's like a second lease of life. I get really good results from that.
Your liver's like the battery pack of your body as well. So if that's not functioning well, you can't create energy. You can't process hormones. You can't get everything out. And I agree with the whole staging of the detox as well. Because if you're going in with these like liver detox cleanses and you start reading about gallbladder flushes and just add them in, if your bowels are open, you're just going to recirculate all of that stuff back into the system. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. Then your second stage is the cleanse. Have we kind of touched on that, or is that something different?
Yeah, we touched on that. Yeah. So the first step would be basically looking at the dietary side of things. Then we'll be doing all the cleansing, and then we'd look at the parasites. I mean, when I say 3 steps, it's not really that we do one in isolation. It's more 3 areas, because the parasite cleansing from day one we're doing, but we are weaving them throughout the program, because we need to make sure we're getting the parasites in their different life cycles. And if we get worms out, we need to make sure we then follow up and get the eggs. So there's always different things to consider. At the full moon, it's much more effective to do parasite cleansing because they're easier to remove from the body. So we want to time it with that. So yeah, it's more, I look at these 3 areas when I'm doing the program, but they tend to weave sort of, you know, throughout, depending on what we need to do, when we need to do it, and how we're going to maximise the healing depending on the time. And
I always say for my clients, for every year that you've been symptomatic, you need at least 1 month of healing. So that just puts it into perspective. If your things are only recent and you've just been kind of on and not taking care of yourself kind of process, then it might be shorter. Whereas if you've been sick from the moment you were born, then it's going to be a long journey, unfortunately. And
I know, it's horrible to say it to someone though, isn't it?
I know.
It's disheartening. But I mean, that is also the power of detox, because I get so many people come to me and say, I've been following this diet and I've been trying this and I'm not really seeing results, I'm not seeing them quickly. And I mean, diet is it's not really always enough to be able to heal, which is why when you can then incorporate the detoxing and you're able to dump toxins at a quicker level than through diet alone, that's when you're going to be able to accelerate your healing results. So then hopefully, again, it all depends on someone's body, but sometimes you can speed up the healing a little bit.
Yeah, because if you've got a chronic infection in your gut, but you're eating this perfect organic diet, then you're probably not absorbing the majority of it. So you need to clear things out and fully benefit from the nutrients that you're taking in. And do you just assume that everyone who you work with has parasites, or are there specific symptoms that would lead you to parasites versus yeast and candida versus bacterial overgrowth, or do you do any testing?
No, what I do is generally, so the things that when I do parasite cleansing, it's an approach to all pathogens. So what the wellness program, in my mind, what I'm trying to achieve is to get people to a position. So it's trying to reset their body as much as possible with the approaches we're doing. And at the end of the 12 weeks, that's when I look more specifically to see, okay, what has not had results from what we've been doing? Because most of the pathogens, most of the problems tend to be addressed with the various types of cleansing protocols, the various types of cleansing that we do. So with what's left, that's when it's something more specific. That's when we need to drill down, and then I look more specifically at those symptoms that are then left. Because it's very difficult when someone comes and they've got, you know, you could have 50 symptoms, for example, to try and work out that piece of the puzzle, when a lot of people, it's very common to have poor gut health. It's very common because of our environments to be toxic. It's very common if you've never parasite cleansed before, you'll have parasites. So once we've got those out of the way, you're then left with 5 symptoms that can then give you a quite an obvious picture of what this client specifically now needs. And then that's what we can do. Then that's more of a tailored one-on-one. I mean, I do tailor the program, but not as tailored as it would need to drill down to with what's left. And that's then when the approach would change more drastically.
And I'm guessing a lot of the herbs and things that you use are like antibacterial, antifungal, antiparasitic. What's just like an overview of some of your favorite supplements that you'd add in at these stages?
So one of the things actually is quite important to mention is people always say as well that they're on a probiotic, and I'm taking probiotics but my gut health is not improving. So one of the products that I really like is called Kiki Bodybiotics, and it's a probiotic that's combined with soil organisms. So it just helps the probiotic actually take hold in the gut, which if you've got gut dysbiosis and a really bad state in the gut, putting a probiotic in, I try and give the analogy of if you've got a forest that's on fire and you've got a bucket of water, yes, the water is right, but the bucket isn't going to do anything. And it's like trying to take the probiotic. So that I really love that product. That really helps to then just start making progress on improving the gut. And then from there, we can start looking at the probiotics and even further down the line, the fermented foods like you touched on earlier. I really like olive leaf extract. Have you heard of that? Mm-hmm. It's antimicrobial, but also really great immune support. And obviously when we're toxic and got parasites, our immune system is suppressed. So it's great to have something where we can support that, but also is helping to reduce any overgrowth in the gut. I like turmeric. I think that's just an all-round great herb. A lot of people as well will say to me, I always add powdered turmeric onto my foods. But again, I say when you're trying to heal, you need something more bioavailable, and you also need it combined with black pepper. That will increase its bioavailability. And if you've got poor gut health, you've got poor absorption usually, so you need a liquid. So I always try to recommend liquid herbs that are easily absorbed. And it's just much more powerful. You know, the powdered herb is really not going to do a great deal. And I think this is it. This is just trying to, it's such a small little change from, they're already doing the turmeric, they're already trying. It's just having the education to know, instead of using the powder, in this instance, we need this liquid with the black pepper.
Yeah, like a big difference.
Yeah, so yeah, it's just frustrating that the education isn't widely available for everyone to know this. People are willing, to do what it takes to heal. They're just misguided a lot of the time, and the internet is just so conflicting. And let's pick one more. I really like oregano, using the right ways. Extremely powerful, and short-term use, I think it can do wonders. I've missed out garlic. I've got to say garlic, actually. I think garlic's my number one. Absolutely. I absolutely love garlic, and I actually say to my followers at the full moon, actually all the time, but especially at the full moon, dicing up a garlic, putting it on a spoon, and taking that before you go to bed. It's my little thing. It's great. And then if you really want to take things further, you can put a garlic up your bum as a suppository, which is also, then you're attacking the parasites both ends. And it's really effective if people get like insomnia or wake up a lot in the night. And I found that by telling them to do the garlic, they sleep through the night. Because it's also a great immune support.
More active.
Exactly. And because at night our immune system drops in the early hours, that's when you can then wake up. The parasites are moving because of our suppressed immunity. That garlic can just, you know, it's nature's antibiotic, so it can just help give it that little kick that your body needs to keep you sleeping. So absolutely love garlic. Yeah, that's my number one.
And my friend's family's Indian, and she was saying, we're talking about parasites, as you do with your friends who are in this field. And she was saying that the best time to take herbs and things is like, I think between 1 and 3 a.m. in the morning. So they would literally tell each other to wake up, set an alarm, because of that immune system being low and the parasites and everything being more active around that time. But most people probably aren't going to follow with that. So your recommendations, your tips sound pretty good.
Yeah, before bed is a bit easier, isn't it, than having to wake up. But, yeah, no, I found that really effective. Yeah.
And what are some other symptoms? So you've mentioned obviously acne, insomnia, sleep issues, things getting worse maybe around the full moon, digestive symptoms, I'm guessing, obviously. But what are some ones that people may not think are like a bad thing? Like they've had them, maybe fatigue, like just common but not normal symptoms.
That's the thing with fatigue. It really could be toxins or it could be parasites. Well, because of the making the environment change, it could be both. Grinding your teeth at night, that's quite common. Like chronic pain, like joint pains, that's another one. Eczema, rashes. I've had great success with clients with eczema from parasite cleansing, really quickly as well, within weeks. They've been on like steroid cream, from steroid cream to completely healing within weeks. So if someone listening has got eczema, I would definitely try doing a parasite cleanse. If someone's been on a holiday and got ill, that could be, you know, that's quite normally an indicator that you could have had a parasite. And if you had food poisoning, similarly, been to a restaurant and had food poisoning, I would always follow that with a parasite cleanse just in case. Mood swings, that's quite common actually as well. They can hijack the brain. There's a whole book, can't remember what it's called, but there's a whole book on how they can hijack the brain and your emotions. So mood swings then as well. I think I just said mood swings, didn't I? But yeah, and anemia, they steal your iron. But again, that could also be because of the gut health and the poor absorption. Yeah, I think they're the most common ones really.
And how do you tell the difference between like a symptom with fatigue? Is it 90%, 100% going to be due to these toxins and infections in your opinion, versus something like a simple vitamin D deficiency or stress, overworking, not sleeping? But I understand how they could be tied back to the parasites and the things in the first place.
Yeah, this is the thing. So I won't ever look to filling nutritional gaps until we've gone through the gut heat. This is why I do the 3, phase approach, because if I think there's a deficiency, I still need to make sure the gut's working right before I fill that deficiency in, because again, it'll just be a band-aid. So that's when it will come to at the end, right, we've still got these symptoms. That's when we'll look at, now it could be a nutritional deficiency. If we then fill them in, each time you'll be able to drill down closer and closer to improve your accuracy on what could be going wrong.
Great. And I want to now just talk about some common detox practices that people might have heard of and what your thoughts are if you implement them as well. The first one being fasting. So intermittent fasting or like full day water fasts, juice cleanses as well. Any of those that you like?
Yeah, I think so. Juice cleansing I do in my program. We do just 2 days just to give people an introduction into it, and just teach them how to do it, in what ways, like even just making up the juices, what ratios. You don't really want like too much fruit, you want more veg, what sort of juicer to get. Make sure it's masticating juicer, it holds more nutrients. Just the education around the juicing, I think it's great. Our digestive system uses up so much energy, and that's energy that we could be using healing. So that's what juicing allows us to do, as well as if you have got poor absorption, because it's in liquid form, you're going to be able to absorb the nutrients from the juicing much easier than trying to break down the food. Water fasting, I think, is incredible. But you've really got to be from a healthy position to do water fasting, or you can make yourself quite sick. And if you start detoxing too fast, you can actually cause yourself cellular damage. So I wouldn't personally go into water fasting unless you know what you're doing. But I think juice fasting, just doing, starting with just a morning, or just a day, and seeing how you get on. Like, some people will be like, I had so much energy, I felt really amazing. Then great, that's a sign that that's working for you. Whereas some people get really dizzy, get faint, get faint-headed, are really tired. They might not be ready for it. So it's all about listening to your body. And intermittent fasting, yeah, that can work really well as well. Especially if you sort of hold off when you're having breakfast, so that you then, utilise the time you've had overnight and then into the morning. Yeah, I think they're all really great ways and can be used, in different ways depending on what you're trying to achieve and where you're coming from.
One of the products that I've heard you speak about, I've never actually personally used it. I think I sent you a message, like, where do I get it in the UK? Would be TRS, or the zeolite product. Yeah. Tell me about the benefits of that. Is that mainly for heavy metals and aluminium, those types of things, or would you do that for parasites, gut health problems?
Both. In terms of heavy metals and parasites, because heavy metals contribute to that bad terrain, that environment, and they also feed parasites. It's a really crucial part of parasite cleansing, is looking at the potential for there to be heavy metals. But commonly, so I'm part of a group on Facebook, and it's called TRS-A Safe Heavy Metals Detox, and it's commonly used for children because it's very gentle. Pregnant women can use it as well. So it's gentle but very effective. And I've seen results on there that, for example, children who have got speech difficulties or haven't started speaking, they start with TRS, their speech explodes. So these potentially are things that have been caused by having these heavy metals. Some suggest maybe from vaccines, if there was some vaccine damage there, they then are able to detox from some of the products from vaccines, and are now being able to develop well. So children and pregnant women especially, but anyone that's just starting out on heavy metal cleansing, that is a really great product to use as your first port of call because of how gentle and safe it is. Because with some heavy metal cleanses, they can take hold of the heavy metal but not actually get it out of the body, and then by moving it around you cause a lot of damage. So that's something, especially heavy metals, of all the cleanses, heavy metals is really something that you want to have a practitioner for. Apart from TRS, you join that group, there's so much support on there as well. I would recommend that.
Interesting.
Sure.
So is it just the way that it's been formulated that makes it, is it like liposomal and it kind of just takes longer and it's more gentle rather than something, what's the other one?
Because people
EDTA?
That's they use like chlorella a lot, don't they? I'm not a big fan of chlorella.
No, I've not really seen it do much, to be honest.
No, and I just think there is quite a high risk of that one not actually taking it from the body. So you want to make sure that it is being able to do two parts of the job. One part is obviously finding it, and the other part is safely removing it. TRS is the only one really that I would. And actually, people always ask me if they've got fillings in their mouth, can they use TRS? And they can.
Okay, that makes a big difference as well, because some of them you can't go near because it's just going to make the issue worse. Amazing. Exactly. I'm going to have to give that one a try. I'm like, maybe I'll just try everything.
No, exactly. Yeah, follow the group because you'll learn so much on there. And what I did is I followed the group for a while first of all, just sort of get all types.
Work for a while.
I do. What's happening? And I think I've done about 4 bottles now, and that's really great.
Amazing. Speaking of things that we've done for our health, what's the craziest thing you've ever done?
Thing is, what
I know people listening is probably like they're like, oh, I've done that. Like they garlic up your bum, like, yeah, whatever.
No, exactly. That's why I think there's probably not much that can shock your listeners, but I do make you've reminded me now with the bum thing. I make suppositories. So I've got an ice cube tray, but it's shaped, like oblong. Conveniently shaped. And I'll put coconut oil and some essential oils, very low dosage because they're obviously very powerful. Anti-parasitic, like clove oil, turmeric, oregano. Mix it up, let it freeze for a couple of hours, and then you've got yourself a perfect suppository there that I put in at the full moon. When you're doing oral herbs, it's quite localized to the gut, and depending on what symptoms you have. So if you wanted to get to the eyes, for example, the best way to get to the eyes, they say, is through the bloodstream, and through that is rectally. So, and again, if you want to get them to the brain, you would do it rectally. So where I've done parasite cleansing for a long time, I'm now at a point where I'm like, it's all about rectally for me, because I'm trying to take it to the next level, and then I can teach others then the next level. So,
and I know everyone's thinking, like, what happens when the coconut oil melts or the garlic's in there? Does it come out?
No. So, no, it doesn't just, the garlic doesn't, it doesn't leak out.
Okay.
It just stays there, and then when you go to the toilet the next day, it just look bubbly and frothy down there, where it's obviously like the oils as well. And the garlic will just come out with your next bowel movement as well. So no worries there. But if anyone does do it and I think I need to get this garlic out, just do an enema. So maybe this is the thing, I'm assuming that anyone that's willing to do a suppository has probably already done an enema, because enemas are much smaller than
like the intro into any blood stuff.
Exactly, the whole world of annual treatments. Yeah, it must be probably the weirdest thing, because it's to do with the farm. Everything else, no one would think was weird.
Well, if it works, like people will do anything if they're desperate.
What about the yoni pearls? Have you done them?
The yoni
pearls.
Yoni pearls? No.
It's just like,
well, you have to share now.
I'm thinking this might be a little bit weird as well. It's a little pearl that's made up of various herbs that are good for like uterus, uterine area. Okay. So you put them vaginally. Oh. Yoni
pearls.
Yeah.
I think it's accents. I can only imagine what people in America are thinking. They're like, what are you guys saying?
Yeah.
I think she said like vagina pearls, yoni pearls.
Yeah, I don't know where yoni come from. Yoni?
Yoni is like the vagina.
Oh, is that what it is?
Y-O-N-I, yeah.
I call it yoni, so I've got it all wrong.
Yeah, yoni, yeah.
Oh, thanks for letting me know. I'm inside the world.
Yeah, they do like vaginal steaming, jade eggs. So I think it will be under that category. I think, so, but what's that? Just like herbs that you insert vaginally?
Yeah, so it's just like in a little ball, like a little mesh ball that holds it all in, and it's got a string like you would a tampon. So you put that in, leave it for a day, then pull it out, then leave a day, because people think that when you put it out, that's when you're gonna get gunk and whatever come out. It's not. You'll literally be going about your day doing whatever, and then all of a sudden you'll be like, I feel something, and then there might be stuff there.
Right. Have you ever seen any parasites or worms personally, or I'm sure you've had pictures sent to you by
in general, or from the
parasites? No, anything.
I was like, well, did that have a big worm come out?
I have heard of like worms coming out of noses, vaginas, eyes. Like, yeah, crazy.
I couldn't deal with eyes. That would be horrendous, wouldn't it? No,
like little stringy. They're not like huge worms, obviously. Like little stringy things. Yeah,
I'll be petrified. The fact they're in my eyes, it's very scary, isn't it? Yeah, I've seen a lot of worms. I mean, clients and non-clients. Once you become someone that's into parasite cleansing, people are very happy to share their thoughts.
That's like all that's on your phone library, your laptop, just parasites.
Riddled.
Yes.
Riddled with parasites. Yeah, I open up my inbox sometimes. No warning, a worm. Could been eating my dinner. I've actually put on my website, on the reviews page, at the bottom, I've got a gallery of worms. So, because some people just really love to see that sort of thing. So if you do, they can head there and...
Yeah, just to prepare yourself. If you're new to all of this and you just want to know what potentially to expect, because I know that some people don't see anything, but it's still working. So that might be good. Maybe not around meal times for people to go and look. So I'll link that in the episode show notes. But
especially spaghetti.
Oh yeah. Oh, lovely. So I want to finish up now, Jade, with just a few more questions about you personally. So the first one is, what's one herb, nutrient, product, supplement, anything that you just couldn't live without?
It always changes, because you find something new, don't you? And then you're absolutely loving it, and then And the thing at the moment is I'm loving lavender essential oil, because my friends told me that you can just put 1 drop on your hand, rub your hands together, and then you just breathe it in before bed, and it knocks you out. I'm absolutely loving that right now. But there are so many. But that's the thing for the moment.
Any brands that you like for essential oils?
I use doTERRA personally. I've heard doTERRA and Young Living tend to be the best two. So yeah, I think either of those probably. Just making sure you can ingest them.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, I tell clients, you know, you can do this with them, you can do that, and then they show me a picture of one they've got from the local health shop. I'm like, please do not start ingesting that. Oh God.
Nope. Unless you want to burn your insides.
I know. It's scary.
Is there a book or a resource on the subject of parasites, detoxification, that you want to recommend to the listeners?
Do you know what? There's a really big lack of parasite books.
You need to write one.
I know, I'm debating it. There's not any. I mean, there is one actually that was quite good, but I really can't remember what it's called now, because I've got them before and I've read them, and I'm like, it's not really. Oh, I'll have to have a look. Basically, it's a chronic hydrotherapist who's written a book because of all the parasites that he was seeing come out of his clients. He couldn't believe it, and at the first one, he was like, okay, maybe they just, you know, have been to third world countries and they're riddled. It was so common. He was thinking, actually, do you know what? I think this could be something that everyone's got inside of them and they don't realise. And so I went on to write a book, and that one's probably the best one. What I'll do is I'll
send me a message and I'll include it in the show notes for everyone.
Yeah, I'll let you know, because that's quite a good one.
Great. And then what's one thing that you do daily to stay in hormonal harmony?
Hormonal harmony. I always support my liver. I take a liver herb every morning. I make a cocktail, basically. So I make a cocktail before bed that I'll then have on my
Not the alcoholic type.
No, unfortunately not. No, that would be good for my liver, would it? That would be the opposite. And then I wake up, and the first thing I do then is have my morning cocktail with like my herbs. Yeah, and I'll always have a liver herb. Like you were saying before, the liver is so important for hormones, you know, breaking down excess hormones, etc. So yeah, I will rotate between. I pretty much touched on them earlier, but the milk thistle or turmeric or burdock root, buplerium. Actually, I really like that one too. And that's the thing with herbs. Rotation is key to keep them being effective. So yeah,
you have to keep your body guessing.
Exactly.
Agreed. And then very last question, Jade, is where can people find more from you online? So your program, I know you're big on social media and you're really active on there. So tell us where they can find you.
Yeah, the main place I hang out is on Instagram, which is at the Wellness Program. But it's program NNE at the end, because I know in America they spell it differently, and I need to be specific. And my website is thewellnessprogram.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This has been great. And I, again, love chatting with more local people to me. Even though you're in London or around London, that's still local.
Yeah, for sure. And like you say, I don't think there are many of us in the UK, really.
Hopefully we'll inspire some people to... there's a lot of UK listeners, and I know that some people are interested in starting to study from hearing and like going through their own process, similar to what we did. So yeah, hopefully this has inspired some people, and hopefully some parasite cleanses will be started.
Hope so. Yeah, I want to spread the word about parasites for sure.